Hello guys and welcome back to Leah's Lifestyle, and we're reading Berkshire Hathaway 1987 Letters to Shareholder Part 3. Oh my goodness, these are starting to get long, but that's alright. As long as we're doing somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes, I think that's better than a whole hour's worth of listening to me talk. But anyways, let's continue. Many competitors, however, have drawn an incorrect conclusion upon observing recent events. They are fond of saying that the small investors have no chance in a market now dominated by the erratic behavior of the big boys. This conclusion is dead wrong. Such markets are ideal for an investor, small or large, so long as it sticks to investment needing volatility causes by money managers who speculate irrationally with huge sums will offer the true investor more chances to make intelligent investment moves. He can be hurt by such volatility only if he is forced by either financial or psychological pressure to sell at untoward times. At Berkshire, we have found little to do in stocks during the past few years. During the break in October, a few stocks fell to prices that interested us, but we were unable to make meaningful purchases before they rebounded. At year-end 1987, we had no major common stock investment. That is, over 50 million other than those we considered permanent or arbitrage holdings. However, Mr. Market will offer us opportunities. You can be sure of that. And when he does, we will be making and able to participate. In the meantime, our major marketing place for money is medium-term tax-exempt bonds. Those limited virtues I explained in last year's annual report, though we both bought and sold some of these bonds in 1987, our position changed little overall, holding around 900 million. A large portion of our bonds are quote-unquote grandfathered under the Tax Reform Act of 1986, which means they are fully tax-exempt. Bonds currently purchased by insurance companies are not. An alternative to short-term cash equivalents, our medium-term tax-exempt have so far served us well. They have produced substantial extra income for us and are currently worth a bit above our cost. Regardless of their market price, we are ready to dispose of our bonds whenever something better comes along. We continue to have an averse to long-term bonds, and many be taking a serious mistake by not disliking medium-term bonds as well. Bonds are no better than the currency in which they are denominated, and nothing we have seen in the past year or past decade makes us enthusiastic about the long-term future of U.S. currency. Our enormous trade deficit is causing various forms of quote-unquote claim checks, U.S. government and corporate bonds, bank deposits, etc., to pile up in the hands of foreigners at a distressing rate. By default, our government has adopted an approach to its financial pattern on that of Blanche Du Bois, of a streetcar named Desire, who said, quote, "I have always depended on the kindness of strangers," end quote. In this case, of course, the strangers are relying on the integrity of our claim checks, although the plunging dollar has already made the proposition expensive for them. The faith that foreigners are placing in us may be misfounded. When the claim checks outstanding grow significantly numerous, and when the issue party can unilaterally determine their purchasing power, the pressure on the issuer to dilute their value by inflating the currency becomes almost irresistible. For the Deboder government, the weapon of inflation is the economic equivalation of the H-bomb, and that is why very few countries have been allowed to swamp the world with debt denominations in their own currency. Our past relative good record for physical integrity has let us break this rule, but the generosity accorded us is likely to intensify rather than relieve the eventual pressure on us to inflate. If we do succumb to that pressure, it won't be just the foreign holders of our claim checks who will suffer, it will be all of us as well. Of course, the U.S. may take steps to stem our trade deficits, deficit. What is that word? Why are there so many words in this one that he's using? That I swear these are not normal words. The amount by which an entity's expenses or liabilities exceed its income or assets. Deficit. What the fuck, Leah? Read, please. Oh my god. Why was I trying to say it with a C? Deficit. What is wrong with me? I knew that word. I know this word. Deficit. That's what the other word was before when I said it. So sorry, guys. Okay, I'm gonna start over. Calm. Of course, the U.S. may take steps to stem our trade deficit well before our position as a net debtor gets out of hand. In that respect, the falling dollar will help, though unfortunately it will turn in other ways. Nevertheless, our government's behavior in this test of its mettle is apt to be consistent with its Scarlett O'Hare approach generally. Quote, I'll think about it tomorrow, end quote, and almost inevitably procrastination in facing up to physical problems will have inflationary consequences. Both the timing and the sweep of those consequences are unpredictable, but our inability to quantify or time the risk does not mean we should ignore it, while recognizing the possibility that we may be wrong and that present interest rates may adequately compensate for the inflationary risk. We retain a general fear of long-term bonds. We are, however, willing to invest a moderate portion of our funds in the category if we think we have a significant edge in a specific security. That willingness explains our holdings of the Washington Public Power Supply System 1, 2, and 3 issues discussed in our 1984 report. We added to our WBPSS positions during 1987 at year-end. We had holdings with an amortized cost of $240 million and a market value of $316 million, paying us tax-exempt income of $34 million annually. We continued to do well in arbitrage last year, though, or perhaps because we operated on a very limited scale. We enter into only a few arbitrage communities each year and restrict ourselves to large transactions that have been publicly announced. We do not participate in situations in which green mailers are attempting to put a target company, quote unquote, in play. We have practiced arbitrage on an opportunistic basis for decades, and to date, our results have been quite good. Though we have never made an exact calculation, I believe that overall we have averaged annual pre-tax returns of at least 25% from arbitrage. I'm quite sure we did better than that in 1987, but it should be emphasized that a really bad experience or two, such as many arbitrage operations suffered in late 1987, could change the figures dramatically. Our only 50 million plus arbitrage position at year-end 1987 was 1,096,200 shares of Allides, with a cost of 76 million and a market value of 78 million. We had two other large holdings at year-end that do not fit precisely into any of our 5 categories. One was various Texaco Inc. bonds with short maturities, all purchased after Texaco went into bankruptcy, were it not for an extraordinarily strong capital position of our insurance companies, it would be inappropriate for us to buy defaulted bonds. At prices prevailing after Texaco's bankruptcy filing, however, we regained these issues as by far the most attractive bond investment available to us. On a worst-case basis, with respect to the Pennzoil litigation, we felt the bonds were likely to be worth about what we paid for them. Given a sensible settlement, which seemed likely, we expected the bonds to be worth considerably more. At year-end, our Texaco bonds were carried on our book for $104 million and had a market value of $119 million. By far, our largest and most publicized investment in 1987 was a $700 million purchase of Saloma Inc. 9% preferred stock. This preferred is convertible after 3 years into Saloma common stock at $38 per share, and, if not convertible, will be redeemed ratable after 5 years, beginning October 31, 1995. From most standpoints, this commitment fits into the medium-term fixed income securities category. In addition, we have an interesting conversion possibility. We, of course, have no special insights regarding the direction or future profitability of investment banking. By their nature, the economics of the industry are far less predictable than those of the most other industries in which we have major commitments. This unpredictability is one of the reasons why our participation is in the form of convertible preferred. What we do have a strong feeling about is the ability and integrity of John Gutfried, CEO of Salma Inc. Charlie and I admire, and trust John. We first got to know him in 1976 when he played a key role in Geico's escape from near bankruptcy. Several times since, we have seen John steer clients away from transactions that would have been unwise, but that the client clearly wanted to make, even though his advice provided no fee to Salma and acquiescence would have delivered a large fee. Such service above self behavior is far from automatic in Wall Street. For the reasons Charlie outlines in page 50, at year-end we value our Salma investment at 98% of par, $14 million less than our cost. However, we believe there is a reasonable likelihood that a leading high-quality company rising and market-making operation can average good returns on equity. If so, our conversion rate will eventually prove to be valuable. 2 further comments about our investment in marketable securities are appropriate. First, we give you our usual warning. Our holdings have changed since year-end and will continue to do so without notice. The second comment is related. During 1987, as in some early years, there was speculation in the press from time to time about our purchase of or sale of various securities. These stories were sometimes true, sometimes partially true, and other times completely untrue. Interestingly, there has been no correlation between the size and prestige of the publication and the accuracy of the report. One dead wrong rumor was given considerable prominence by a major national magazine, and another leading publication misled its readers by writing about an arbitrage position as if it were a long-term investment commitment. In not naming names, I am observing the old warning that it's not wise to pick fights with people who buy ink by the barrel. You should understand that we simply don't comment in any way on rumors, whether they are true or false. If we were to deny the incorrect reports and refuse comment on the correct ones, we would in effect be commenting on all. In a world in which big investment ideas are both limited and valuable, we have no interest in telling potential competitors what we are doing except for the extent required by law. We certainly don't expect others to tell us of their investment ideas, nor would we expect a media company to disclose news of acquisitions it was privately pursuing, or a journalist to tell his competitors about stories on which he is working on or sources he is using. I find it uncomfortable when friends or acquaintances mention that they are buying X because it has been reported incorrectly that Berkshire is a buyer. However, I do not set them straight. If they want to participate in whatever Berkshire actually is buying, they can always purchase Berkshire stock. But purchase, that is too simple. Usually, I suspect they find it more exciting to buy what is being talked about. Whether the strategy is more profitable is another question. Finances. Shortly after year-end, Berkshire sold 2 issues of debentures totaling $250 million. Both issues mattered in 2018 and will be retired at an even price through sinking funds operations that begin in 1999. Our overall interest costs after allowing for expenses of issuance is slightly over 10%. Solomon was our investment banker, and its service was excellent. Despite our pessimistic view about inflation, our taste for debt isn't quite limited. To be sure, it is likely that Berkshire could improve its return on equity by moving to much higher, though still conventional, debt-to-business value ratio. It's even more likely that we could handle such a ratio without problems under economic conditions far worse than that have prevailed since the early 1930s. But we do not wish it to be only likely that we can meet our obligations. We wish that to be certain. Thus we adhere to policies, both in regard to debt and all other matters, that will allow us to achieve acceptable long-term results under extraordinarily adverse conditions, rather than optimal results under normal range of conditions. Good businesses or investment decisions will eventually produce quite satisfactory economic results with no aid from leverage. Therefore, it seems to us to be both foolish and improper to risk what is important, including necessarily the welfare of innocent bystanders such as policyholders and employees. For some extra returns that are relatively unimportant, this view is not the product of either our advancing age or prosperity. Our opinions about debt have remained consistent. However, we are not phobic about borrowing. We are far from believing that there is no fate worse than debt. We are willing to borrow an amount that we believe, on a worst-case basis, will pose no threat to Berkshire's well-being. Analyzing what that amount might be, we can look into some important strengths that would serve us well if major problems should engulf our economy. Berkshire's earnings come from many diverse and well-entrenched businesses. These businesses seldom require much capital investment. What debt we have is structured well, and we maintain our major holdings of liquid assets. Clearly, we could be comfortable with a higher debt-to-business value ratio than we have now. One further aspect of our debt policy deserves comment. Unlike many in the business world, we prefer to finance an anticipation. I can speak! I can do it! Anticipation. Whatever. I'm going to pass it. Anticipation is going to be the word now. You're welcome. That's how we're saying it from here on out. Of need rather than in reaction to it. A business obtains the best financial results possible by managing both sides of its balance sheets well. This means obtaining the highest possible return on assets and the lowest possible cost on liabilities. It would be convenient of opportunities for intelligent actions on both fronts coincided. However, reasons tell us that just the opposite is likely to be the case. Tight money conditions, which translate into high costs for liabilities, will create the best opportunities for acquisitions, and cheap money will cause assets to bid to the skies. Our conclusion, actions on the liability side should sometimes be taken independently of any action on the asset side. Alas, what is quote-unquote tight and quote-unquote cheap? Money is far from clear at any particular time. We have no ability to forecast interest rates, and management our usual open-mind spirit believe that no one else can. Maintaining our usual open-mind spirit believe no one else can. Therefore, we simply borrow when conditions seem non-oppressive and open, and hope that we will later find intelligent expansion or acquisition opportunities, which, as we have said, are most likely to pop up when conditions are in the debt market and clearly oppressive. Our basic principle is that if you want to shoot rare, fast-moving elephants, you should always carry a loaded gun. Our fund first, buy our expand later policy almost always penalizes near-term earnings. For example, we are now earning about 6.5% on the $250 million we recently raised at 10%, a disparity that is currently costing us about $160,000 per week. This negative spread is unimportant to us and will not cause us to stretch for either acquisitions or higher yielding short-term instruments. If we find the right sort of business elephant within the next 5 years or so, the wait will have been worthwhile. Miscellaneous. We hope to buy more businesses that are similar to the ones we have, and we can use some help. If you have a business that fits the following criteria, call me, or preferably write. Here's what we're looking for. 1. Large purchases. 2. Demonstrated consistent earning power. 3. Businesses earning good returns on equity while employing little or no debt. 4. Management in place. 5. Simple businesses. 6. An offering price. We will not engage in unfair takeovers. We can promise complete confidentiality and very fast answer, customarily within 5 minutes. As to whether we're interested, we prefer to buy for cash, but we will consider issuing stock when we receive as much in intrinsic business value as we give. We invite potential sellers to check us out by contacting people whom we have done business in the past. For the right business and the right people, we can provide a good home. On the other hand, we frequently get approached about acquisitions that don't come close to meeting our tests. New ventures, turnarounds, auction-like sales, and the even popular among brokers, quote, "I'm sure something will work out if you people get to know each other," end quote. None of these attract us in the least. Besides being interested in the purchase of entire businesses as described above, we are also interested in the negotiated purchase of large but not controlled blocks of stock comparable to those we hold in Cap City and Solomon. We have a special interest in purchasing convertible preferreds as a long-term investment, as we did at Solomon. And now a bit of deja vu. Most of Berkshire major stockholders received their share at year-end 1969 in a liquidation distribution from Buffett's partner Ltd. Some of these former partners will remember that in 1962 I encountered severe managerial problems at Dempster Mill Manufacturing Co., a pump and farm implement manufacturing company that PBL controlled. At the time, like now, I went to Charlie with problems that were too tough for me to solve. Charlie suggested the solution might lie in a California friend of his, Harry Bottle, whose special knack was never forgetting the fundamental. I met Harry in Los Angeles on April 17th, 1962, and on April 23rd, he was in Beatrice, Nebraska, running Dempster. Our problem disappeared almost immediately. In my 1962 annual letter to partners, I named Harry Man of the Year. Fade to 24 years later, the scene is K&W Products, a small Berkshire subsidiary that produced an automotive compounds. For years, K&W did well, but in 1985 and 86, it stumbled badly. As it pursued the unattainable to the neglect of the achievable, Charlie, who oversees K&W, knew there was no need to consult me. Instead, he called Harry, now 68 years old, made him CEO, and sat back to wait the inevitable. He didn't wait long. In 1987, K&W's profits sent a record, more than 300% from 1986, and as profits went up, capital employment went down. K&W's investment in accounts receivable and inventories has decreased 20%. If we run into another managerial problem 10 or 20 years down the road, you know whose phone will ring. About 97.2% of all eligible shares participated in Berkshire's 1987 shareholder designated contributions program. Contributions made through the program are $4.9 million, and 2,050 charities were recipients. A recent survey reported that about 50% of major American companies match charitable contributions made by their directors, sometimes by a factor of 3 or 1. In effect, these representatives of the owner direct funds to their favorite charities and never consult the owners as to their charitable preferences. I wonder how they would feel if the processes were reversed and shareholders could invade the directors' pockets for charities favored by the shareholders. When A takes money from B to give to C, and A is a legislator, the process is called taxation. When A is an officer or director of a corporation, it is called philanthropy. We continue to believe that contributions, aside from those with quite clear direct benefits to the company, should reflect the charitable preference of owner rather than those of officer and director. We urge new shareholders to read the description of our shareholder designated contributions program that appears on page 54 and 55. If you wish to participate in future programs, we strongly urge that you immediately make sure your shares are registered in the name of the actual owner, not in the street name or nominee name. Shares not so registered on September 30th, 1988 will be ineligible for the 1988 program. Last year we again had about 450 shares at our annual meeting. Shareholders at our annual meeting. The 60 or so questions they asked were, as always, excellent. At many companies, the annual meeting is a waste of time because exhibitionists turn it into a sideshow. Ours, however, is different. It is informative for shareholders and fun for us. At Berkshire's meetings, the exhibitionists are on the dais. This year, our meeting will be on May 23rd, 1988 in Omaha, and we hope that you come. The meeting provides the forum for you to ask any owner-related questions you may have, and we will keep answering until all, except those dealing with portfolio activities or other properties information, have been dealt with. Last year, we rented 2 buses for $100 to take shareholders interested in the trip to the Future Mart. Your actions demonstrated your good judgment. You snapped up about $40,000 of bargains. Mrs. B regards this expense/sale ratio as on the high side and attributes it to my chronic initiation to costs and generally sloppy managerial practices. But graciously as always, she has offered me another chance, and we will again have buses available following the meeting. Mrs. B says you must beat last year's sales figures, and I have told her she won't be disappointed. February 29th, 1988, Warren E. Buffett, Chairman of the Board. Whew, fucking finally. I've heard people read like 3 of these a day. I don't know how they do it. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so that way you know every single time when I post. And leave a comment. How are you feeling about this? We're getting through them. Should I make them